I've gotten several calls from a landscape architect. She owns her own small business. I think she's a good person. She's very friendly. She called me a few times, half a dozen times, over the last year. And she calls me typically with questions about QGIS, which is an open source mapping program. We call it a GIS program. And she's usually calling me to get help because she's trying to mash together some publicly available, what we call GIS datasets or geospatial datasets. So the first time she called me, she had downloaded a county-wide, what we call LIDAR dataset. So it's a laser in an airplane that provides a data that represents the topographic surface of the earth, basically. So she had some LIDAR data, and then she had some tax assessor parcel data, and she was trying to get those two things to fit on top of each other. And so I talked to her for a little bit, and I was like, what are you trying to do? So she told me, I'm trying to mash these two data sets together. I said, why are you doing this? She said, well, I'm working on a landscape design. She had a home that was worth $2 or $3 million in California. It's not uncommon in a nice neighborhood. And the homeowner was going to redo their landscaping. And so this landscape architect had been hired. And so she was trying to prepare her design plans. So I talked to her for a little bit, and I said, hey, I would love to help you, but this is a really bad idea. You don't want to do this. What you need to do is you need to get a boundary and a topographic survey to support your landscape design, especially, I know the jurisdiction you're working in, and I know what the city requirements are for the site plan and for the design plans. You can't do this. You can't do this with a county-wide LIDAR data set and some tax assessor parcel data. This is going to cause huge problems in construction potentially. You need to just pay for a real survey, and we're happy to help you with that. We never got hired. I suspect she went ahead and figured out how to do this without my help. And she's called 2 or 3 different times to try and get me to help with either this situation or similar situations. She's got some publicly available geospatial data set, and she's trying to mash something together. So this is a real problem. So why? Why is it a problem? Well, there are several reasons why this is a problem, but in this video, I just want to focus on one. And the one problem I'm going to focus on is that what we call the scale of the geospatial data that she is trying to mash together is not suitable for her intended use. In other words, the data is at too large of a scale for the level of design that she's doing. She doesn't have enough detail in the data to do a good design. She needs more detailed data. She needs a real survey. So I want to try and explain what that means. What I just said, what does that mean, in a way that a common person can understand. I'm going to try and explain it in a way that my wife Monique would understand. She's not a surveyor. So I want you to think about a road map for a minute. Not Google Maps on your phone, but like an actual road map. I know some of you are probably too young to know what that looks like, but in the old days, 20 years ago, you would carry around a road map in your car because we didn't have Google Maps. And you typically would have at least a couple maps. So, and I did this. I still have this. I still have these in my truck because you never know when your cell service is going to go out. But you typically have a map of the nation. So road map of the United States that showed all the big cities and at least the interstates and the highways. And then depending on what you were doing, you might have a much smaller map of your city or your county or your region, still a road map, but that showed a lot more the roads in a lot more detail. And so what this landscape architect is essentially trying to do is she's trying to navigate to a particular mailbox on a remote one-lane country road using a national road map that only shows freeways and highways. And that isn't going to be effective, is it? And so that's the problem that we're focused on right now. See, the scale of her data is too large. It doesn't have enough detail for the intended use. She's doing a site design, right? She's designing on a very small scale. I just want to explain, there's nothing wrong with using the county tax assessor data, tax assessor parcel data, or a county-wide LIDAR data set. We use that type of data here at my company all the time. We use publicly available geospatial data sets. But we're always very careful about how we use that data. And we always make sure that we're not using it when it doesn't have sufficient level of detail, right? When it's not small enough scale. So what might you be able to use a county-wide LIDAR data set for? What would be some appropriate or some suitable uses? So you might use a county-wide LIDAR data set to define your regional watersheds. Nothing wrong with that. It's a perfect use for that type of data. You might use it to create a map showing areas of potential landslide hazard based on steepness of slope. Completely suitable use. Okay, here's what you wouldn't want to do with that data. What you wouldn't want to do with that data is go in and design specific geotechnical remedies to an active landslide area. The data doesn't, that county-wide LIDAR data set probably doesn't have enough detail for that kind of design, for that intended use. Okay, so why is this happening? This landscape architect is not the only design professional that is doing this. There are design professionals doing this all over the United States and all over the world. Why? This is a bad idea, right? It's going to cause problems. It's going to cause lawsuits. Why is it happening? So I've got three reasons why this is happening. One is large-scale geospatial data is now easily available, right? In a few clicks on the internet, you can put your hands on it. So that wasn't true 20 years ago. It's true now. So these design professionals have this data at the tip of their fingers. Number two, that data is almost always free or very low cost. And that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing if it's used appropriately. But the low cost means it tends to get misused. And the third reason is design professionals, like this landscape architect, are practicing outside what we call their area of competence, and they're looking for shortcuts. Why are they looking for shortcuts? They're trying to save money, right? They're trying to save money for their client, or they're trying to squeeze more profit out of their job. And so they're looking for a way to eliminate the need for a good survey and take a shortcut. And I'll illustrate it to you this way. You can imagine what would happen in America if we just made quality tequila available for free at every corner market. Now, I don't drink, but I happen to like tequila. I imagine we would have a much worse problem with alcohol addiction if you could get shots of tequila at your corner store, your corner gas station for free. So what's the point of that somewhat silly illustration? As the cost of something approaches free, the use of that thing can start to cause problems, right? Like when you have to pay for a shot of tequila, it's a little easier not to overconsume, right? Because tequila is expensive, especially if you're in a bar. So we have a little bit of that same problem going on. So what are the lessons of this video? I'm really making this video for project owners. These are people that hire design professionals. Now, I'm probably not going to get to the homeowner here because they're not watching this YouTube channel. But if you're a project owner like a utility company or a government agency or an institutional landowner, you might see this video. Don't let your design professionals do this. Right? So what can you do to prevent this misuse of these publicly available geospatial data sets that don't have the required level of detail? So number one, you need to understand how your design team that you hire is using off-the-shelf data. Ask them that. Require it in your contract docs. Say, we want to know anytime you are using off-the-shelf data. We want to know where that data comes from. We want to know what you're using it for. We want to know how you're using it. We want to know how you're ensuring that use is suitable. Number two, don't let your design team practice out of their area of competence. Your landscape architect is not a land surveyor. Neither is your civil engineer. Neither is your architect or your structural engineer. If you're doing any kind of major infrastructure project or land development, you need to have a land surveyor with decision-making authority at the decision-making table. Don't let your design professionals pretend that they're land surveyors because they aren't. And number three, Do not let your design team take shortcuts. In order to prevent that shortcut taking, you have to be involved at, first of all, hire a design team you trust to perform quality work. And then, you got to supervise those folks. Keep an eye on your design team and understand what shortcuts they might be taking, right? Shortcut, I'm 45. One of the things you learn if you live long enough is shortcuts almost always cause problems. They're almost never a good idea. And then finally, number 4, if you're doing a site design or a major infrastructure project, you're going to have to get a good survey. There's no way around that. Now, look, the publicly available geospatial data sets are great for planning level analysis or maybe schematic design, preliminary design, but you just can't do good, detailed design plans for infrastructure or land development with these publicly available data sets most of the time. You just can't. You need a good survey. You need an accurate, high level of detail, up-to-date survey of whatever area you're gonna build in. So make sure that you get that quality survey. So don't be like this landscape architect, right? And be mashing up data that isn't suitable for design. If you're a design professional, don't do that. And if you're a project owner, don't hire design professionals to do that. I know surveyors are a pain in the butt, right? Like, we're stubborn, we're arrogant, we're difficult. But sometimes you just have to deal with this. And you have to deal with this. If you're gonna build, you probably need a good survey to build on. So use caution. If you're not sure how your design team is using publicly available geospatial data sets, if you want some help developing some guidelines on when that's appropriate and what needs to be done if they're going to be used, reach out to me, landon.blake@redefinedhorizons.com, or reach out to my team, Redefined Horizons. We're on the web. We can have a conversation with you. We can help you develop some guidelines or specification if we need to. We can also help your design team properly utilize publicly available geospatial data. Might be able to save you a little money, but that has to be done in the right way. We can talk to you about what the right way is and how you can make sure that happens. Thank you for watching.